It's another diagonal layout, and here's the sketch that I made myself. Hello, and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as Mercy Tiara, and I make scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. Today, I am going to be scrapbooking about a recent Blue Nose Marathon that my family attended. And I am going to be doing basically another take on the last layout that I did, which was a diagonal layout. Now, I had a vague sense that I was doing the same thing, but I didn't realize how similar these layouts would be to one another in terms of technique, I guess. So both layouts feature diagonals, both layouts feature mixed media coming out from underneath of the paper that's on the diagonal. And that's pretty much where it ends because this layout is quite a bit different than the other one in all the other ways. So I just was showing my little 4x6 inch cards that I like to use. When I created this layout, I was live streaming with my tiaras over on Patreon. It's something that we do almost every weekend, and it's a lot of fun. So if you would like to hang out with us, head on over to Patreon because we have lots of fun every week there. I'm starting with a piece of white cardstock. This is basil. In my last layout, I did start off with a piece of Vicky Bouton Foundations paper, which is a mixed media specific, very heavy paper. For this one, I'm just going with regular old cardstock, and I'm not going to gesso it, so it's just going to show you how it looks when you don't prepare the paper, which is fine. It works fine. As long as you're not doing too much splashing around on there and moving watery things around too much. Regular cardstock usually holds up pretty okay. Now I have these two photos that I am going to layer with one another, and I'm still using the fabulous kit from Mercy Tiara Kits. There are a number of embellishments here. I'm just setting the timer so I can remember. Sometimes I forget to check the Discord server and chat with people over there. So I always set a timer for myself. So that's what that timer is all about. I'm going to start by just familiarizing myself because my jumping off point for this layout was that I had organized my die cuts, and I did that in a behind the scenes video with my tiaras. And in the course of doing that, I noticed that I had several sets of floral die cuts, and I thought I should be using those up. So here's my last layout. In case you didn't see that video, I will link it in the information section and in a card up in the top right hand corner, so you should be able to find that one pretty easily. As you can see, it's a pretty similar concept, but this one is going to look quite a bit different. So back to my story, I had been organizing my die cuts, noticed that I had some floral sets, and decided that one of these diagonal layouts would be a really great way to show off some florals. So I am trying to pick which patterned paper I'm going to cut on the diagonal and use with the white as the background, and then whatever pattern paper I decide will be the one that is on the the big triangle on the page. So I have decided I'm going to mat this photo with this same blue pattern paper that I matted the photos in the last layout. So I really like this because it adds some boldness to the page with that kind of bright blue. It also picks up on some of the blues that are in the photos, particularly in Scott's shirt. So I think that works really well. I'm going to mat these first, and then I'm going to layer them so that they're slightly askew. And that is going to give each of these photos a little bit of definition on the page, because there could be a lot going on behind them, because my plan is to use up a whole bunch of flowers on this page. So these photos are the same size. They're both basically 2 by 3 inches. They might be a tiny bit bigger than that, but I think I printed them at about 2 by 3. And I just want to layer them such that the photo of the people is on top of the photo of the feet, because the people are the most important part of this story. And my diagonal is longer than either my trimmer or my ruler. So I grabbed my bigger ruler, and I'm going to draw a line down the center. Another way to do this is to fold it like I did last time, and then you can either tear on your fold or you could cut on your fold. But I just decided I knew that I had a longer ruler, so I just decided to use that instead. Now, this paper I chose specifically. You saw that there were a number of papers that were contenders for this roll of half triangle, of half page diagonal. But I chose this one because I knew I'd be using a lot of florals, and I did not want to have a floral pattern to compete with the floral die cuts that I'll be putting on this page. So here we go. We've got our half and half page on the diagonal. I'm loving how it looks so far. Love that color of pink especially. And then the colors in the photo really pop on this pattern paper because there are some really dark dots on there that really pick out some of the colors that are in the photos. I'm just going to layer these so that they're a little bit askew. I don't want it looking too lined up. I want this page to have a nice casual look, as if it had just kind of everything had just fallen on the page easily. And so now I have to decide which florals I'm going to use. Now, these were the 3 floral sets that I discovered when I was tidying up my room and organizing my die cuts. And I thought about using these ones, and they feel really fancy to me. I don't really love them. And these ones have just a little bit more of a illustrated look than the other ones do. They both have an illustrated look, but these ones just, I don't know, these ones just appealed to me a little bit more. So I decided to go with these ones. They're a little bit, maybe they're a little bit more casual for a running related layout. So I'm just going to tuck some of them in there, and I'm mindful of balancing. So there's some of that darker reddish color on the top. So I want to put some of the darker reddish color on the bottom. I put that blue flower on the top. So I want a little bit of blue on the bottom. And there's a leaf here, so I'll put a leaf up here. I am going to move these around a little bit, but and substitute a few things here. This is not the way it's going to end up looking, but this is my starting point. Now I'm thinking about where I might put a title. I could put a title here. I could put it right under the photo here is probably one of the best places for a title. I could also do some journaling strips down there. There's a whole bunch of different things I could do. I also thought about putting a flower up in the top corner like that, just to balance off the page. But it turns out I don't end up doing that because I don't really want it to be balanced in that way. I want all the action to be right in the center of the page here for this one. So when I tidied up my die cuts this week, I sorted them by color, which is something that I used to do a while ago. And I decided, but I have far fewer this time. So because I ended up destashing a whole bunch of old sets of die cuts. So I'm kind of starting all over again, and I sorted them into color, and I have them in a little acrylic drawer set. And I'm going to, here it is right here. I'm going to change the camera so that you can see what it looks like a little bit better than the top down angle. And I have them sorted. These are my oranges and yellows. And so this allows me to just pull out any colors that I think I might be missing. And so I grabbed that little orangey sprig right there. And what I'm looking for here is a sneaker, because one of the ladies who was chatting with us on the live stream watched me sort these earlier in the week. She was there for the die cut sorting, and she thought that I had a sneaker die cut that I could incorporate into this page, but it turns out I couldn't find. I did have a shoe, but it wasn't a sneaker, and so I gave up on that idea, and I'm just going to use the flowers, which is fine. We're talking about books and scrapbooking, and there it is. It's Shamel who has the Converse sneakers in her die cut set, and I don't think I have that set. So we're going to just proceed with what we have here. You saw me snap a photo of it a few minutes ago. That's because I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to take all these off to put some mixed media in the background. So I did use my pencil there to roughly indicate where the flowers will be, but I made sure that I made those lines under where the die cuts were, because once you put mixed media on a page, you can't erase your pencil marks anymore. Now, when I'm doing this, I don't want the mixed media to go at all on this piece of pattern paper. So I'm going to mask it off. I'm actually going to mask it with these page protectors. I have these 8.5 by 11 page protectors. They're very inexpensive. I bought them in bulk, and they just make a pretty good plastic. I didn't want to have to search around for large scale masking plastic, so this is a good way to do it. I just taped them together, and I'll do it that way. Now get a load of those colors. Oh my goodness, those colors make me so happy. I'll tell you the colors that I ended up using. So I'm going to keep that large yellow one there. It's by Colorings, and it's called Mandarin Mai Tai. I'm also going to keep the one called Pretty in Pink by Colorings. And some of the Heidi Swap Color Shine in the coral color will also make it onto the page. But I have an assortment of yellows, pinks, and oranges. Oh my goodness, probably the happiest color combination you can ever find. And so I am going to use that same silicone mat that I used on my last project. I like that you can see the grid mat underneath, but I still haven't used it in that way yet, but we'll get a chance at some point. And here is my other silicone mat. I'm just comparing the two. I'm going to just do a little bit of a sampling so that I can see what these colors look like. So I'm just spraying them on this little index card. These are my Amazon index cards that are fairly inexpensive. And I'm doing two things. I'm sprinkling it, and then I'm also putting it on my little acrylic block, which I use as a palette sometimes, adding just a tiny bit of water to each of those little pools of color, and then using a paintbrush just to see how it paints onto the page, because that's my other idea. And that's how that looks. Ooh, so pretty. Now that I know what that looks like, I don't need this mat anymore. So I kind of like this idea of layering mats where I could just play around with experimenting with colors, not have to worry about bothering my layout below. And now I can just put away that mat, and I still have the other mat under this one in case I make a mess here. So I'm starting by just moving some color, putting it on this cardstock. Now remember, this is non-gessoed plain cardstock, so I don't want to play around with this too much, or I will wear down the paper fibers and it'll start to pill and look yucky. So I am just placing this color on the page. I'm not spreading it around too much at all. There's a little bit of water in each of those colors, but it's mostly ink. So I've got this kind of pattern of color, and it looks really terrible right now because there's that big gap of white between where my color is and where the paper is, but that's all going to be filled in with die cuts, so you're not going to see that. Then I did some splatter to get some deeper color, and I usually just use the nozzle from the mist in order to do some splatter. Mists are probably the thing that I use the most for splattering. It's really easy. Everything is like it's already liquidy. You don't have to do anything. Just use the nozzle and drip away. I'm going to dry that a little bit with my heat tool so that I can quickly move to the next phase of this one, which is adding the die cuts back in place. So it turns out I didn't really splatter too much at all on the silicone mat, so I didn't even really have to clean it up, but you never know until you've already spilled all over your mat that you're going to need something like that. So I like to err on the side of caution. Now here are those photos, and I think they're going to go right around there, but it kind of depends on how these end up laying out on the page. So I remembered that I had a leaf at the top and a leaf at the bottom. So I'm starting there, and I knew that I had that blue flower somewhere around there. They don't have to go exactly the way that they were in my first arrangement, but I did like the way that it was then. I liked that there were some flowers that were kind of like going out onto the page, not just following the diagonal too closely. So adding that smaller bunch of the big bunch that's smaller flowers out onto the white part of the page just adds a little bit more variety. I don't want these flowers to be one straight line diagonally right across the page. I want them to flow a little bit out onto the white page wherever I can. So you will see me just play around with this in a lot of different ways. And I'm trying to balance both the line of the floral so it's not just one straight line, but I'm also trying to balance the colors as I go as well. And varying the different varieties of flowers so I don't have all the same one clumped up together, and the colors, which I think I already said. I really love all of these variety of different leaves that come in this set of die cuts. So I am trying to, use those leaves. Oops, it's almost time to do a little chat. I cut those out of the edited video, so you won't get to see that part, but it's fun. I love seeing what everybody else is making while I'm creating, because that's the benefit of Discord, is that with a live stream, you guys get to see me, but I don't get to see you. So with the Discord server, I get to see what they're making, which is really fun for me. I'm going to mess around with the placement here a little bit, just adding adhesive to it and then tucking it in where I think it's going to need to go. I'm taking into consideration where the splatter lands, where there might be gaps. And as I replace them, there was one little spot where the pencil line was showing, and I must not have replaced the die cut in exactly the same way. I did take a picture, but I'm not referring to it. So, yeah. Maybe if I had followed the photo a little bit better, that wouldn't have happened. But I just found another flower so that it would cover up that little piece of pencil mark. Here, what I'm playing with is I just want there to be more of a variety. I felt like there were too many of the same kind of flower down there, so just doing a little bit of substitution here. And I decided to actually cut off the blue leaves here. I have some blue leaves already down here, so I'm just cutting them off, and then I'm just adding some white gel pen so that that die cut looks finished off and doesn't look interrupted by the, lack of leaves. So see how the background is blue there because there was a leaf underneath of that flower on the original die cut. So I'm just covering over any of the blue part so that it's got like a white outline around it, the same way that all the other die cuts that I'm using have the white outline around it. And giving it just one more coat. You do have to be careful with gel pens. They don't coat very well. So I don't actually recommend that you go back for a second coat. I try to get it in the first coat so I don't have to try to do that because it gets chunky and sometimes it skips a little bit on the second coat and it just doesn't look so good. So try to get it right the first time. Don't do as I do. Do as I say, not as I do, maybe they say. Yeah, that's the saying. I want to use this leaf here, but it's, as you can see, it's a little awkward, but I was able to figure it out. And then that tropical leaf there actually is pretty important to keeping this not look so diagonal, like not such a straight diagonal line. So I'm just going to be sure that I put that. I'm just popping this up with a little bit of foam. So this is just fun foam from the dollar store. You could use foam adhesive, but I'm just mindful of the cost of that particular kind of adhesive. So whenever I'm doing something big like this, I'll just grab a chunk of fun foam instead. Save myself a couple bucks. Now, I do want to extend some of this design out onto the white. I'm not going to extend the design onto the pink pattern paper, so it's just going to extend out here on the one side. That's very intentional because the pattern paper already has its own pattern, and anything else that I put on that is going to compete with the polka dot pattern. Also, I'm thinking I'll put some journaling strips and a title somewhere on the pink pattern paper, so Love these little asterisks. So I'm putting one beside each butterfly. They're just so cute. And I just have these sets of puffy stickers. A lot of them are from Paper Person. Some of them might be from Studio Calico as well, from really old kits. And I just love using them to scatter amongst my little embellishments. Just taking a look to see if anything in that sticker set might work here, but nope. And now I have to figure out what I'm going to do for my title. So I'm disappeared right now, and that's because I'm across my room grabbing as many navy blue and bright blue letter sets as I can find. So I have a set here from Hip Kit Club that I really thought I was going to use, but I ended up not. And then I have this set from the Hip Kit Club, and this set I really love because it picks up on the blue in Scott's shirt. And then I have, oh, this is the Twilight thicker set. They're my all-time favorite thicker set. I only ever had one set of them, and they're pretty much used up. Like, I don't think I could spell too many things with the letters that I have, but I did think about using those, but I wouldn't be able to spell what I needed to. Now, Harmony, who was participating in the live stream, always has the best titles. And she suggested several. There were 5 or 6 of them that she suggested. But I ended up going with her suggestion, which was walk or run, it's all for fun. Now, I had my heart set on a very short title. I wanted my title to be one word and to fit underneath of those 2 photos in one line. Like, I didn't want a multi-line long title. But I loved this title. When Harmony typed it, I just couldn't resist, and I thought, oh, I guess we're going for a longer title than I thought. So I found this other set of blue smaller letter stickers that I could spell out some of the smaller, less important words in the title, and it's just such a perfect match. It's not exactly perfect, but it's close enough that it looks really, really great. Sometimes when things don't match really perfectly, it looks a little off, but in this case, it doesn't. So I'm really pleased with how it looks. And so my title is running on the diagonal as well, which I think is really fun. I did set those letters out so that they were slightly askew, just to keep with the fun, bouncy kind of idea. The concept here is that I walked this race and the other 3 all ran the race, and I wanted to incorporate that, and I was trying to figure out, I thought that my journaling would say that, but then I figured once the title said this, walk or run, it's all for fun, it kind of tells the story by itself. So I felt like I didn't really need more journaling, and I love it when a combination of the photos and the title can tell my story for me, and then I don't really need to add anything else. This was my first race. I'm using the word race a little bit carefully here because I didn't run, I did walk, but it was a hard walk for me because I have not been very active following some health problems that I had a couple years ago. I never really did get back into the swing of being active, which I had been active most of my life. So it was tough for me to do this walk, 5K. 5K with Halifax is a very hilly city, so it was a tough 5K, and I think even a flat 5K would have been tough for me in this condition. But I did it, and I did it fast too. I tried to walk as fast as I possibly could. I have my roller date stamp, and I just had to look up the date of the race. It was May 17th, 2025. So I spelled that out I kind of, found that on my roller date stamp and stamped it with my favorite blue ink, which is called Misty Moonlight from Stampin' Up. I love that blue ink. It's like a denim. It looks like a dark denim. I really love it. And so I was trying to think, am I going to put some journaling here or not? And I just decided not to. I'm just reading out the names of those colors. I've already read them out to you, but I was just reading them out to the folks on my live stream. And this is it. That's all she wrote, folks. So in a second here, you're going to see the list of my amazing Patreon supporters. The folks who you're going to see on the screen in a few minutes, they truly help make this channel happen, so I'm so grateful for each of them. Tiaras get early ad-free access to all of my process videos, plus real-time unedited versions, often in the form of live streams. They also get exclusive behind-the-scenes content from my craft room and my process, along with sneak peeks and more, including we are embarking on a year-long Book of Me project with monthly journaling prompts, photo prompts, and all sorts of activities to keep us focused on documenting ourselves for an entire year and telling all of those stories that sometimes get overlooked. And a big thanks to you for watching all the way to the end. Again, I'm Mercy Tiara, and I love sharing my full creative process with you, including all the little decisions and lessons learned along the way. Please be sure to check out the links at the end of this video to dive into my collection of process videos. This video was filmed in the incorrect aspect ratio, so my apologies that this one was a little bit smaller. I think that starting on the next video, things are back to normal, so I appreciate your patience about that. Take care and have a really great scrappy week.